My phone rang on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was watering the violet pots on my porch, the same ones my husband had planted before he passed away. A trembling voice came from the other end. "Mrs. Linda?" "Yes, this is she." "Who's speaking?" "This is Kevin, the photographer from Gabriel's wedding. Could you spare me a few minutes? I need you to come to my studio, but please come alone." My heart started pounding. 6 months had passed since the day I watched my son walk down the aisle. 6 months since I'd spent a huge part of my savings to make his dream come true. And now, a photographer was calling me with a voice filled with urgency. "Is there something wrong with the photos?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Ma'am, I discovered something while reviewing the files, something you need to see before anyone else does. Please don't tell your son. Trust me." I hung up, my hands ice cold. I grabbed the brown leather purse my husband had given me 15 years earlier and rushed out without saying a word to anyone. Bianca, my daughter-in-law, was locked in the bedroom, technically my bedroom. The studio was about 20 minutes away. Every red light felt like an eternity. I tried to guess, were the photos corrupted? Or was he trying to ask for more money? I had already paid $8,500 for the full photography package. When I arrived, Kevin was waiting at the door. He looked about 30, with dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for coming so quickly," he said, leading me to a small room in the back. On a large computer screen were dozens of photos already open. "Mrs. Linda, I don't like being the bearer of bad news, but if this happened to my mother, I'd want someone to tell her." He clicked open a folder. These are the images I was adjusting. I looked at the screen and my world collapsed. In the dim corner behind the ballroom, away from everyone's sight, Bianca, my daughter-in-law, was wrapped tightly around another man. Not a casual hug, but a kiss. Their hands were intertwined, their bodies pressed together. On her face was that unmistakable expression of belonging to someone. "There's more," Kevin whispered, opening several more photos. 5 pictures, 5 different angles, all of the same moment. And the man was Daniel, my son's best friend and best man. I had to grip the edge of the table to keep from falling. "When were these taken?" I asked, my voice shaking. "During the reception, around midnight, when everyone was dancing. They snuck off to that corner." He zoomed in on one of the photos. I could see every detail: the wedding dress Bianca wore, the one I had paid $22,000 to have imported, covered in sparkling crystals. I saw the wedding ring still on her hand. There was no mistaking it. This wasn't a moment of weakness, it was deliberate betrayal. "Why did it take you 2 months to tell me?" I asked, eyes still fixed on the screen. "I delivered the edited photos 2 months after the wedding, remember? These got misplaced in another folder. I just found them last week. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen them." My throat burned as I swallowed hard. "Can I get a copy of these?" He nodded and handed me a USB drive. "Everything's in here. And I'm very sorry." I walked out of the studio without knowing where I was going. Sitting in my car, I clutched that USB like it was a live bomb. My son had been betrayed on his own wedding night, and I had spent $187,000 paying for the show. But the worst was yet to come. When I got home, Bianca was sitting on my sofa, laughing on the phone, sipping wine from my glass. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just betrayal, it was a scheme, and I was the one at its center. If you want to know how a 67-year-old mother exposed the cruelest lie of her life, keep listening, because this story is only beginning. I need to go back a bit so you understand the pain I felt in that room. I met Bianca 2 years earlier at a backyard barbecue hosted by my friend Susan. My son Gabriel had reluctantly come along. He hated social gatherings. At 35, a software engineer, he preferred spending late nights working at his computer. I had almost given up hope of ever having grandchildren. But that day, he was different, bright-eyed, smiling, and next to him was a young woman with long, straight hair, blue eyes, and a floral dress. "Mom, this is Bianca." She hugged me, smelling of expensive perfume, her voice sweet as honey. "Gabriel has told me so much about you. It's such a pleasure to meet you." 28 years old, working in advertising, living alone in a small city apartment, or so she said. I was charmed immediately. After 6 years of widowhood since my husband Robert had died of a heart attack, leaving me alone at 59, I had forgotten what it felt like to see my son happy. Bianca started visiting often, always with a reason, bringing dessert, asking for a recipe, seeking career advice, calling me Mom Linda in that sugary tone. "Mom Linda, show me how to make that creamy chicken dish Gabriel loves." "Mom Linda, can I ask your opinion about something at work?" "Mom Linda, you're the kind of mother-in-law every woman dreams of." I was foolish enough to believe her. My house was in Lincoln Park, a quiet, beautiful neighborhood in Chicago. 3 bedrooms, a spacious living room, and a backyard with the apple tree Robert had planted when we first moved in. We bought the place 30 years ago, paying it off little by little. When he passed, I was left with the house, around $900,000 in savings and insurance. I lived comfortably on our pensions, not wealthy, but stable, and it was mine. Gabriel grew up there. Every brick, every scratch carried a memory. Bianca, however, looked around with the eyes of someone evaluating a property, but I didn't see it. I only saw another daughter. She made me feel needed. She called every day, sent sweet messages, invited me to lunch, always insisted on splitting the bill. I was touched. I grew attached to her. A year later, Gabriel proposed under the apple tree. I cried uncontrollably. "Mom, I want you to have the daughter-in-law you've always dreamed of," he said, hugging me tight. 3 months later, they sat across from me talking about the wedding. "Mom, we want something really special, but the budget's tight," Gabriel said, while Bianca pretended to protest. The wedding was stunning. Bianca looked radiant in her glittering gown. Gabriel cried when he saw her walking down the aisle, and I cried too. Daniel, his best friend, stood beside him as best man, giving a heartfelt speech about friendship and loyalty. Loyalty, what a bitter word now. The reception went late into the night. Music, dancing, laughter. I was exhausted but happy. I thought my job as a mother was finally complete. After their 15-day honeymoon in Cancun, I expected them to move out and start their life together, but they didn't. 6 months later, Kevin's call made all the pieces fit. Every hug from Bianca, every strange phone call, every visit from Daniel, they were all part of the plan. They had used me, turning my love into fuel for their perfect scam. And that tragedy was only the beginning. Let me tell you about that wedding in detail, because every decision, every expense, every choice was part of the trap I helped build myself. 2 weeks after I promised to pay for everything, Bianca showed up at my house carrying a thick leather folder filled with catalogs. She sat down at my kitchen table, the same table Robert and I used to plan our future, and began flipping through the pages. "Mom, Linda, look at this. Isn't it a dream?" She pointed at pictures of grand decorations, white flowers hanging from the ceiling, twinkling lights, a French carpet running down the aisle. Each page she turned made my stomach tighten as the numbers grew. "Bianca, isn't this a bit much?" She held my hand, her voice syrupy. "I know it's expensive, but you deserve a perfect wedding, Mom. Gabriel's your only son, and this only happens once in a lifetime." Then she lowered her voice, almost whispering, "I don't have a mother, she died when I was 12. You're the mother I never had. I want that day to be special for you too." My throat closed up. How could I say no after that? "All right," I said. "Let's make it beautiful." Her smile lit up the room. After that, Bianca controlled everything. She met with vendors, dragged me along, but made every decision herself. "Mom, Linda, this venue is the best in town, $60,000, but look at this menu: shrimp, appetizers, steak and fish entree, and a full dessert table. Worth it, right?" I had never spent that much on food in 5 years. "What about the cake?" She showed me a picture of a 5-tier cake covered in edible flowers, $4,500. I almost dropped my pen. "And the dress?" "Mom, I found it." She showed me on her phone. Strapless, long train, Italian crystals, $22,000. But when Gabriel sees me walking down the stairs, I looked at my notebook, full of numbers. I had already withdrawn over $80,000 from my savings, and that was only half. But Gabriel had never looked happier. He came home exhausted from work, yet every time Bianca showed him photos of the preparations, he hugged her and said, "Mom, thank you. You're making our dream come true." Our dream, those words haunt me even now. She also chose the photographer. "Mom, we can't hire just anyone. We need someone who captures every emotion. Kevin's the best." The full package was $8,500, covering pre-wedding shots, ceremony, reception, and after session. I wired the money directly to Bianca's account because she said it would be easier to manage. And the flowers, $15,000, Mom. I picked white orchids, lilies, and imported roses. They have to look elegant. The place deserves it. The DJ, lighting, big screen for videos, another $12,000. Invitations printed on cotton paper with gold embossing, $3,800. Guest, gifts, personalized jars of organic honey, $5,200. I wrote everything down, watching the money drain like water through my fingers. Still, Gabriel's happiness made me believe it was worth every dollar. One night, 3 weeks before the wedding, Gabriel stopped by. He sat on the beige fabric sofa that Robert and I had bought when we first moved in. "Mom, are you sure you're okay? I know this is a lot of money." I brushed his graying hair from his forehead. "Gabriel, you've given me the happiest years of my life. Let me give you this gift." He hugged me tightly. "I love you, Mom. Bianca loves you too. We'll always take care of you." The wedding day came. The sky was clear. I woke early, put on my simple navy blue dress that cost $2,000, the only thing I had chosen for myself, and went to the venue. When I walked in, I froze. The entire place looked like a palace. Flowers everywhere, soft lights, music filling the air, tables draped in cream linen, even a chocolate fountain by the entrance. $187,000 turned into that scene before my eyes. Bianca arrived soon after, hair and makeup flawless. When she put on her dress, she looked like a porcelain doll, so beautiful it seemed unreal. "Mom, Linda, thank you. None of this would exist without you." She hugged me, her perfume overpowering. Daniel, the best man, showed up in a navy blue suit, silver tie, shaking hands with everyone. The ceremony began. The minister spoke of love, commitment, and family. I cried so much I had to borrow tissues from Susan. When he said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the room erupted in applause. Gabriel kissed Bianca passionately. She smiled as if she had just achieved the greatest victory of her life, and maybe she had. She had just trapped two fools, her husband and her mother-in-law. The reception lasted deep into the night, lavish food, flowing drinks, music of every kind. Daniel gave a toast. Gabriel is the most loyal friend, and Bianca is the perfect woman. I laughed and clapped, unaware that at that very moment, behind the stage, they were kissing. No one saw except Kevin's camera. When the party ended, Gabriel and Bianca left for the airport. They were spending 2 weeks in Mexico for their honeymoon, a trip they said they were paying for themselves. At least that didn't cost me anything. I drove. Home that night exhausted but happy, believing I had done the right thing. But when they returned, everything changed. The real trap began to close around me. The first 2 weeks after they came back were strange. Bianca came over showing me photos of blue oceans, colorful drinks, and Gabriel smiling. "Mom, Linda, it was wonderful. Thank you for making it all happen." She hugged me, but her embrace was cold and brief. Gabriel was different, too quieter. When I asked about work, he just said, "Fine, Mom, just busy." I figured he was tired after the trip. By the 3rd week, Gabriel stopped by alone on a Saturday morning. I had just baked mini cheesecakes, his favorite. "Mom, I need to talk to you." My heart sank. "Go ahead, son." He turned his coffee cup in his hands, not looking at me. "Our lease ended. We're staying at one of Bianca's friends' places, but we can't stay long. Rent in Chicago is crazy now, even $4,000 a month, and with the wedding balance still on our credit cards." He didn't finish, but I understood. "You want to move back here, don't you?" He nodded. "Just for a few months, Mom, to save some money. The house is big, and you'll have company. I know you get lonely here." A part of me, the foolish part that still believed in family, felt happy to have him close again. "Of course, this is your home too." The relief on his face melted me. "Thanks, Mom. We won't be any trouble. Bianca's very tidy. You won't even notice us." They moved in on a rainy day, 3 big suitcases and a few boxes. Bianca looked around as if she were appraising the place. "Mom, Linda, can we use the back bedroom? It's bigger." That was my room, the one Robert and I had shared for 30 years, where he took his last breath, where his shirts still hung in the closet because I couldn't bear to throw them out. "Bianca, that's my room." "Oh, are you still using it? If not, maybe we could stay there. It's brighter and has a bigger closet." Gabriel walked in carrying boxes. "Mom, it's okay. We can wait until you decide." But Bianca had already opened the door and exclaimed, "It's beautiful, look. Built-in closets, honey." I froze. "All right," I whispered. "You can have it." It took me 3 days to move into the small front room. Every item I packed: the wedding photo frame, the music box Robert had given me, the wool blanket his mother knitted felt like a knife cut. Bianca didn't help at all. She sat in the living room giggling into her phone. The first 2 weeks in that house were suffocatingly quiet. Bianca woke up late, sipped coffee leisurely, then either stayed in her room or went out. Gabriel worked all day, coming home around 8 p.m., eating dinner, and going straight to bed. I still cooked, washed dishes, and clean just like I always had. But by the third weekend, everything began to change. On Saturday morning, while I was preparing lunch, Bianca walked into the kitchen, frowning. "Mrs. Linda, what's that smell?" "I'm making bean stew with bacon," I said. "Ugh, that's so heavy and greasy. Gabriel's trying to lose weight, you didn't know?" I froze. No, I didn't. "And this house always smells like food. You should open the windows more often." I silently opened the window and kept cooking. The next day, she rearranged my entire kitchen. When I walked in the next morning, I didn't recognize the place I'd cooked in for 40 years. The spice jars were gone, the pots no longer hung on the wall, and the glass containers were crammed into plastic bins. "Bianca, why did you touch my things?" She walked out of her room, tying her robe. "Oh, sorry, Mom Linda. It just looked cluttered. I organized it for you. It looks much better now." Better. The kitchen that had seen my youth and marriage was now just better. And that was only the beginning. In the following days, Bianca started criticizing everything. "This TV is ancient. You still use one with a tube. These leather chairs are awful. They look like they belong in an old person's house." An old person's house. I was 67. The sofa's stiff. The curtains let in too much light. The bathroom has mold. Every word was a needle, but I held back because Gabriel seemed happy. Or maybe I convinced myself he was. One evening, about a month after they moved in, Daniel, Gabriel's best friend, showed up. "Mrs. Linda, how are you?" he asked. "I'm fine. Have a seat," I replied. Gabriel was still at work. Daniel stayed to watch football, sitting beside Bianca, the two of them whispering and laughing. When I passed through the living room to get water, I saw his hand resting on the arm of the couch, close enough to brush hers. "Would you like something to drink, Mrs. Linda?" Bianca asked, smiling. "No, I'm heading to bed." I closed my door, trying not to think about what I'd seen. But deep down, I knew I just couldn't admit that my son had married a liar, and I had spent $187,000 paying for that wedding. 2 months later, Bianca came into the living room with a home decor magazine in hand. It was Sunday morning, and I was having coffee alone. Gabriel was out jogging, a new habit Bianca had pushed him into. "Mom Linda, may I sit here?" Of course. She opened the magazine and pointed to pages of sleek white and gray houses. "You have a lovely home, full of potential, but it needs a few updates." My stomach tightened. Updates? A fresh coat of paint, new furniture, a modern kitchen, maybe a bathroom remodel. It would increase the house's value and make you feel younger. Younger, as if I were an old object needing restoration. "Bianca, I don't have the money for renovations right now. I spent everything on the wedding." "I understand, but that's why Gabriel and I want to gift this to you. We'll pay for it." "A gift? That's not necessary. The house is fine." "Fine, Mom Linda?" she said, still smiling, though her tone had hardened. "This house is old, the paint's peeling, the kitchen ceiling leaks, the faucets drip. If we don't fix it now, it'll cost more later." She wasn't wrong, but I had no plans for a full renovation. Just then, Gabriel came in, sweaty from his run. "Mom, Bianca told you about fixing the house?" "She did, but I don't think it's necessary." "Mom, let us do it. We're living here rent-free. It's only fair we help out. Besides, the house really does need repairs. You've complained about the dripping faucet before." I looked at them, my son, with his sincere face, and Bianca with her flawless smile. "How much?" Bianca opened her notebook. The numbers were already written down. Around $80,000 to $90,000, including materials and labor. I nearly choked on my coffee. But you'd only need to pay half, Gabriel said quickly. We'll cover the rest. $45,000, I repeated. Nearly half the wedding cost. Let me think about it. No rush, Bianca said softly. But if you don't decide soon, this contractor gets booked months ahead. No rush, yet it was clearly pressure. I spent 3 days thinking, staring at the faded walls, the leaking faucets, the worn-out floors. Maybe they were right. Finally, I nodded. All right, do it. Bianca's face lit up. You'll love it, Mom. Gabriel hugged me. Thank you for trusting us. The next day, Bianca brought a man named George, about 50, carrying blueprints and a camera. He measured, took photos, made notes. Bianca pointed everywhere. This wall comes down, that area gets tiled, this kitchen needs a total redo. Tear down a wall? I gasped. No one mentioned that. Mom, Linda, trust me. It'll open up the space and make it look modern. George handed me a quote. $95,000, $5,000 more than expected. Bianca explained. It includes upgrading the electrical system for safety. Gabriel agreed immediately. I withdrew $45,000 and handed it to him, and he transferred his share to Bianca's account. It's easier for her to manage, he said. On Monday, construction began. 3 men arrived early with drills, hammers, and cement. The banging went on all day. The wall between the kitchen and living room came crashing down. Dust everywhere, the smell of paint and glue filling the air. Then they started moving furniture. Mrs. Linda, these old pieces are in the way. We'll move them outside, George said. I agreed, saying I'd cover them with a tarp. But when I came back from the market, half my things were gone. Bianca, where's Robert's green leather armchair? Without looking up from her phone, she said, I threw it out, it was torn and old. No one keeps stuff like that anymore. I froze. You really threw it away? Yeah, and the wall clock too. I gave it to George's mother, she loves antiques. The grandfather clock Robert bought on our honeymoon, the one he always stopped work at 6 p.m. to listen to. Bianca, my voice trembled. You had no right. Those things were mine. They were my husband's. For the first time, her eyes went completely cold. With all due respect, Mom Linda, they were just old things. If I'd asked, you'd never have let me get rid of them. I was only helping. Helping? My voice cracked. You destroyed my husband's memories. Gabriel rushed in. What's going on? Son, your wife threw away your father's things. Bianca sighed, pretending to be hurt. I just tossed an old chair and a broken clock. They weren't broken, I shouted. They worked perfectly. Gabriel looked at me, then at her. Mom, she didn't mean any harm. She was just trying to help. Help, Gabriel? That chair was where your father read the newspaper every Sunday, where he sat the night before he... My voice broke, tears spilling down my face. Mom, I understand, but it's just a chair. We can buy another. Just a chair. I looked at my son like he was a stranger. Get out, I said softly. Mom, get out. The bedroom door, my door slammed shut. I stood in the wreck of my home, dust everywhere, walls half built, the empty space where the old chair had been, and I realized they weren't renovating the house. They were erasing my life. The work dragged on for 2 months. 2 months of hammers, drills, and strangers walking through my home. 2 months of watching familiar corners vanish. When it was done, Bianca called out, Mom, Linda, come see, it's beautiful. I stepped out of my cramped little room, now barely big enough for a single bed and a wardrobe. and walked to the living room. I stopped in my tracks. Everything was white. White walls, white sofa, pale gray curtains. The warm wooden floors Robert had chosen were gone, replaced with cold gray tiles. The wall separating the kitchen and living room had disappeared. The space was open, modern, and lifeless. "See? Isn't it amazing?" Bianca twirled around with her arms open. "I just see different." Different? It's more modern now, with LED lights, neutral colors. It looks much more valuable. Valuable. Gabriel carried in boxes, smiling. "Mom, look, it's like a brand new house." Yes, a brand new house, but no longer mine. In the days that followed, Bianca started setting rules. "Mom, Linda, now that the house looks this good, we need to keep it tidy." She taped a sheet of paper to the fridge. "Here's the cleaning schedule, what to clean on which day, meal times, kitchen rules, rules in my own house, dinners at 7 p.m. No dirty dishes after 9, trash must go out nightly. Oh, and you'll handle lunch since Gabriel and I work during the day. We'll take turns cooking dinner. Sound good?" Without waiting for an answer, she walked away. I stared at that paper and realized my life was now dictated by a 28-year-old woman in the very home I had built with my own hands. I began to feel like a guest in my own house. I woke early, brewed coffee in silence, cleaned, and cooked lunch. Gabriel left for work at 7 a.m. and returned around 8 p.m. Bianca woke late, sat at her laptop, then went out, saying she had things to handle. And Daniel, Gabriel's best friend, started showing up almost every day. "Hi, Mrs. Linda. Is Gabriel home?" "No, he's still at work." "That's okay," Bianca said I could come by. He walked in, sat on the brand new sofa, and chatted with Bianca as if they were an old couple. One afternoon, I passed through the living room and saw them, sitting close together. Bianca was holding her laptop, Daniel leaning in to look at the screen, his hand resting on the back of the couch, nearly touching her shoulder. "Do you need something, Mom, Linda?" Bianca asked without even glancing up. "No, I was just passing through." My heart pounded. From that day, I avoided the living room, staying in my room, reading or watching TV quietly, trying not to cause trouble. 3 months after they'd moved in, one night I couldn't sleep. Voices drifted from the living room down the hallway. I cracked my door open. Light spilled out from the living room. I heard Bianca's voice clearly. "Relax, baby. Just a little more time." Then a man's voice, Daniel's. "I'm tired of pretending. When will you get that power of attorney?" "I'm working on it. Can't you see?" The old woman's stubborn, "But I'll make her sign." I froze. "Once she signs, everything's easy. We control the accounts, sell the house, liquidate all her investments." "And what about that idiot?" Daniel laughed quietly. "He'll never suspect a thing. He's always been blind. Power of attorney. Sell the house. The idiot, my son." I went back to my room, sat on the bed, my whole body trembling. They were plotting to take everything from me, and Gabriel had no idea. The next morning, I acted as if nothing had happened. I made coffee, cleaned the house, smiled when Gabriel said good morning. But my mind wouldn't stop spinning. I needed proof, something undeniable, before I made a move. A week went by. Bianca suddenly became unusually sweet. "Mom, Linda, I want to throw a small dinner this weekend, invite Mrs. Susan and a few friends. Let's celebrate the new house together." That evening, the table was set perfectly. Wine, elegant dishes, desserts. Gabriel looked happy. When the dinner was about to end, Bianca tapped her glass. I'd like to make a toast to thank Mom Linda, who welcomed us with open arms, to family, and to the future. Everyone clapped. I forced a smile. After the guests left, they called me back to the table. "Mom, sit down," Gabriel said, opening a leather folder and taking out a stack of papers. "Mom, Bianca and I talked. You're 67 now, managing the house, finances, and investments all by yourself. It's a lot of work. We just worry about you." "Worry about what?" I asked. Bianca placed her hand on mine, her voice sugary sweet. "Please don't take it the wrong way, but you've been forgetful lately. Last week you left the stove on all night, and you couldn't remember if you paid the electric bill. I knew that was a lie." Gabriel pulled out a paper. "So, we prepared this power of attorney. All you have to do is sign it, and we'll help manage everything for you. You won't have to worry about a thing." I skimmed through it. Full power of attorney bank accounts, investments, property sale rights, everything. "Gabriel, this gives you both total control over my life." "It's just to help you, Mom," he said. I looked at them. My son seemed sincere, but Bianca's eyes were cold, her smile fake. "I need time to think." Her smile vanished instantly. "Think about what, Mom Linda? This is for your own good." "I said I need to think," I replied, standing up, grabbing my purse, and walking out. When I came back, the house was dark. I went to my room, locked the door, and cried. My son was being led by a snake. Lying there, staring at the ceiling, I thought of Robert. What would he have done if he were still alive? Then my phone rang. A strange number. "Mrs. Linda? This is Kevin, the photographer from Gabriel's wedding. Do you have a few minutes?" "Yes. Please come to my studio tomorrow. I found something in the photos, something you should see. And please don't tell anyone." My hands trembled as I hung up. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying 3 things: Bianca and Daniel's conversation, the power of attorney, and Kevin's call. The next morning, after Gabriel left for work, I put on jeans and a plain shirt and quietly left the house. Kevin's studio was downtown, about 20 minutes away. He opened the door as soon as I arrived. "Thank you for coming." I stepped inside the familiar room, the big screen glowing. He opened a folder. "These are the pictures you already saw Bianca and Daniel in the corner of the reception, but I found a few more." He clicked open another folder. In the photos, Bianca and Daniel were laughing at the bar, holding hands under the table, whispering to each other all night. They were together the whole evening, not just a moment. "And here," Kevin said quietly, zooming in on a photo. Bianca was standing away from the crowd, talking on her phone. "I accidentally caught this shot. I can read lips." She said, "I did it, baby. She paid for everything. Now it's just step 2. My heart dropped. What time was this taken? 11:40 p.m., right after she cut the wedding cake. "Do you know who she was calling?" Kevin opened another photo. Daniel was outside in the parking lot, phone to his ear, smiling. "They were calling each other all through the reception, while your son was celebrating his wedding." I closed my eyes, nausea rising. "I can give you copies of everything," Kevin said. "But before you do anything, understand this isn't just betrayal, it's a plan." "I know," I replied. "I overheard them talking about making me sign the power of attorney." Kevin's face went pale. I told him everything: the renovation, the missing furniture, how they controlled my life, and that conversation I'd overheard. "Mrs. Linda, this is financial fraud. It's called elder abuse. I've heard of cases like this before. But if you accuse her without proof, she'll fight back. She'll claim you're senile, and if your son believes her, what then? I stayed silent. So, what should I do? Can you afford a private investigator? Yes. Then hire one now. Gather evidence, recordings, photos, everything. Once you have it all, get a lawyer. Then face them. I left the studio with the USB drive in my hand, my heart burning. That afternoon, I found a private investigator named Edward Marconi, highly rated. I texted him, and he replied within 30 minutes. The next morning, we met at a coffee shop. Edward was about 45, salt and pepper hair, sharp eyes. He listened carefully as I told him everything. Mrs. Linda, this is a classic setup. I've handled dozens like it. Scammers target people with assets, win over the family, then take everything. I can help you, but I'll need $4,500 to start tracking, recording, background checks. 2 weeks of work. I nodded. Can you start right away? Actually, I already did. He smiled. I looked her up on my way here. Bianca Costa, she's been sued 3 times by older men, all for asset theft. She's a professional. And Daniel? He and Bianca have been together for at least 4 years. I found old photos of them on social media. How long until you have all the evidence? 10 days. I'll document everything. I left the cafe dizzy but determined. When I got home, Bianca was painting her nails. Where were you, Mom Linda? Doctor's appointment. I lied. Everything okay? Just fine. That night, Gabriel called me into the living room. Mom, have you thought about the power of attorney? I gave a faint smile. I just need a few more days. Bianca raised an eyebrow. The longer you wait, the messier it'll get, Mom. Your accounts already have issues. I knew she was lying. A few more days, I said firmly. Gabriel sighed. All right, but don't take too long. I went to my room and texted Edward. You have to hurry, they're pressuring me. He replied instantly. Got it, I'll speed things up. The next 10 days were silent hell. I kept playing the part of the gentle, clueless mother, while a storm brewed inside me. Edward sent me photos of Bianca and Daniel meeting at hotels, audio of them plotting, and the worst clip of all, they laughed, calling me a stupid old woman who's easy to control. I cried in the bathroom, but my tears quickly turned to fire. On the 10th day, Edward sent me a full report, 50 pages long, with photos, audio, everything. It's all here, Mrs. Linda. Now you need a lawyer. I scheduled a meeting with attorney Michael Turner, who specialized in family law and financial fraud. That's when my counterattack began. Michael finished reading the report and shook his head. Mrs. Linda, you have a very strong case. I can help you secure your assets and even press criminal charges: fraud, deceit, misappropriation. If convicted, she could face 2 to 6 years in prison. I said quietly, I don't want to sue. I just want her out of my life and out of my son's. He paused for a moment, then said, Then we'll do it differently. Instead of suing, we'll expose her in front of everyone, with undeniable proof. She won't be able to deny a thing. How? I asked. Michael smiled. Leave that to me. But you'll need to be brave. The truth's about to explode. 3 days later, everything was ready. I was no longer the victim. I was the one holding the final move. On Thursday morning, I received an email from Edward. Mrs. Linda, brace yourself. Listening to this will hurt. I sat in my small room, put on headphones, and pressed play. Bianca's voice came through clearly, talking on the phone, probably with Daniel. Relax, baby. Everything's under control. The old woman's about to sign. Just a little more push. I know it's taken time, but it's worth it. That house is worth at least $1.5 million, plus around $600,000 she's got in the bank. Once we take control, we'll drain it all and disappear. I froze. They knew everything. Her voice came again, lower, dripping with contempt. And Gabriel, oh baby, he's so blind. He believes every word I say. Once it's done, I'll file for divorce, blame him for cheating, take half of everything, and vanish. We're geniuses. Then laughter from both of them. I pulled off the headphones, staring at the ceiling. She called my son an idiot, called their plan brilliant. I wiped my tears, took a deep breath, and played the next recording. Daniel, you should have seen her face when I threw out that old leather chair. She almost fainted. But good. We need to erase every trace of that dead husband. This house is ours now. Once we sell it, no one will even remember her. I shook with rage. My home, my memories, my life, nothing but things to erase in their eyes. The third recording was a conversation between Bianca and Daniel in a restaurant. "How much longer can you take this?" he asked. "Another month at most. Once she signs, we transfer the money, list the house, then I'll make up some illness and vanish." "What about Gabriel?" "I'll leave a note saying I fell in love with someone else. He'll cry a little, then move on." Daniel laughed. "You're cruel." "No, baby, I'm smart." I turned it off. I couldn't listen anymore. Edward sent me 12 recordings, each one a piece of the same scheme. His report stated clearly, Bianca and Daniel had known each other for 4 years, met in a bar. She specialized in conning wealthy men, draining their assets, then disappearing. Daniel was a failed real estate agent drowning in debt. Together, they were the perfect scam team. Gabriel was their third victim. The 2 previous men had been too ashamed to go public, but Edward found one of them, a 60-year-old man named Mario. When I spoke with him on the phone, his voice was weary. "She's brilliant at this. I lost my money, my reputation. My son warned me, and I didn't listen." I hung up, heart heavy. My son had fallen for a professional criminal, and I had helped her walk right into his life. Edward also uncovered how they met. Daniel met Gabriel at the gym, learned he was the only son of a wealthy widow, and deliberately introduced Bianca. Every step, every word, every smile had been calculated. On the 12th day, I met with Michael again. He read the updated report, listened to every recording, then slammed his hand on the desk. "This is organized financial fraud. You should sue." "I don't want a lawsuit," I said. "I want justice. I want everyone to see who she really is, especially my son." He nodded. "Then hold a family dinner. Invite relatives, friends. I'll handle the rest. We'll reveal the evidence right there. She won't have anywhere to hide. I'm afraid. She'll run." "She won't," he said. "People like her live off their pride. She'll try to defend herself, but she can't escape." I nodded. "Let's do it." 3 days later, Michael had everything prepared, printed files, photos, recordings, all compiled onto a USB drive. "Now all you need to do is act normal. Don't let them suspect a thing." I went home, my mind racing. That evening, Gabriel asked, "Mom, have you decided about the power of attorney?" I looked at my son, the man being used, and said softly, "I've decided to sign. But first, I want to host a family dinner, a celebration. After everything, we deserve one good evening together." Bianca appeared in the hallway, her smile wide. "That's a great idea, Mom, Linda." "When?" "This Saturday. I'll book the restaurant and invite everyone." "Perfect," she said, hugging me. "After that dinner you'll sign, right? Just to get it done." I hugged her back, my chest burning with it. Hatred. Yes, after that dinner, everything will be finalized. In the following days, I played the role of the cheerful mother. I laughed, planned, and praised. Bianca was ecstatic, calling Daniel with excitement. "She's going to sign, baby. 1 more week and we're rich." On Thursday, Michael texted me, "Everything's ready. Private room, evidence set, edited recordings, hidden cameras. Are you sure? Once this starts, there's no turning back." I replied, "I'm sure." Saturday morning, I woke early and put on the dark blue dress I'd worn at my son's wedding. When I stepped out, Bianca laughed. "Wow, Mom Linda, you look stunning. Must be happy about signing today, huh?" I smiled. "Today, I'm happy because the truth is about to come out." She didn't catch the meaning behind my words. The restaurant was in an upscale district with a private room. I invited close friends and relatives, 12 people in total, and Daniel as well. We arrived at 8 p.m. The table was elegantly decorated, the lighting warm. Gabriel laughed and chatted cheerfully, while Bianca stood out in a bright red dress. Daniel came late, hugged Gabriel, greeted everyone, then sneaked a glance at Bianca. Their eyes met for a split second, just long enough for me to see everything. When dessert was served, I tapped my wine glass lightly. "Thank you all for coming. Tonight is special because I want to tell you a story about lies, betrayal, and justice." Gabriel frowned. "Mom, what's this about?" "Just let me finish," I said. A waiter brought in a screen. Michael stood in the corner operating the projector. The first image appeared, Bianca and Daniel kissing at the wedding. The room fell completely silent. Gabriel's face turned pale. "Mom, what is this?" Bianca shot up, face flushed. "Mrs. Linda, what kind of joke is this?" "Sit down," I said coldly. "I'm not done." The next image came up, Bianca and Daniel holding hands during the reception, then a photo of Bianca on the phone, her lips forming the words, "I did it, baby. She paid for everything." I spoke slowly. "These photos were taken during your wedding, Gabriel. While you were celebrating, your wife was cheating on you with your best friend. And I paid $8,500 for these pictures." Gabriel's voice shook. "Bianca, explain this." She pretended to cry. "Honey, it's not what it looks like." I was emotional. Daniel was just comforting me. "Lies," I cut in, pressing the button again. On the screen appeared the investigation report, photos of them in hotels, old social media pictures. They've been together for 4 years. Daniel intentionally introduced her to you to take your assets. The room was in shock. Mrs. Susan covered her mouth. Aunt Vera whispered, "Dear God." Every eye turned toward the silent pair. Gabriel sat frozen. I pressed play. Bianca's voice filled the, "Relax, baby. The old woman's about to sign. Just a little more and she'll sign the power of attorney." Her voice echoed through the room. Gabriel squeezed his eyes shut. "I know it took time, but it's worth it. That house is worth at least $1.5 million, plus around $600,000 in her accounts." Bianca jumped up, panicking. "That's edited. Someone faked my voice." "Shut up!" Gabriel roared, his voice shaking the walls. I had never seen my son like that. "Play the next one," he said. I pressed the button. Bianca's sweet yet scornful voice came again. "And Gabriel, Oh, baby, he's clueless. So naive, so obedient. He believes every word I say. When it's over, I'll file for divorce, accuse him of cheating, take half the assets and disappear." The cold laughter of her and Daniel filled the room. I played the next clip, Bianca laughing about throwing away Robert's old leather chair, talking about erasing that old woman's past. Then another, where they plotted how to move the money after selling the house. With each recording, Bianca's face grew paler. Daniel tried to stand, but I shouted, "Sit down. If you move, I'll call the police right now." He sat back hard. When the final clip ended, the room was dead silent. Even the staff stood frozen. Gabriel hung his head, face in his hands, shoulders trembling. Aunt Vera finally broke the silence. "Linda, is all of this real?" I opened the folder Michael had given me. "Here's the proof. 50 pages of investigation, photos of them in hotels, records of past scams, text messages, audio files. Anyone can see for themselves." "Mrs." Susan snatched the file, flipped through a few pages, and turned red with rage. "How could you do this to this family?" Bianca stopped pretending, her face twisted with fury. "So what? I just took an opportunity. That old woman's got piles of money she doesn't even use, and she won't live that long anyway. I only sped things up." The room erupted. People shouted, furious. Gabriel leapt to his feet, pointing at her. "Get out!" I raised my hand. "Not yet." All eyes turned to me. "I'm not finished." I looked straight at Bianca. "You and Daniel will return all the renovation money, $95,000. You have 60 days to pay, or I'll press charges for fraud and misappropriation. My lawyer, Mr. Michael, already has the paperwork ready," Daniel stammered. I don't have that kind of money." "Then sell your car, take out a loan, or sell things on the street." "I don't care, but you'll pay." I turned to Bianca. "You'll move out of my house before 10 a.m. tomorrow. If you don't, the police will remove you. And forget about getting anything from Gabriel. This marriage will be annulled for fraud. You'll get nothing." Michael stepped forward, placing a document before my son. "Annulment papers are ready. Fraud has been proven." Gabriel signed without hesitation. Bianca exploded, screaming, "You think you're all perfect? Linda, you're just a lonely old woman paying people to notice you. And you, Gabriel, you're a weak little boy living off your mom." Mrs. Susan threw a glass of water in her face. "Enough. Not another word from you." The restaurant security, already warned by Michael, rushed in. They escorted Bianca and Daniel out. She kicked and screamed while he stayed silent, head down. When the door closed, the only sound left was heavy breathing. Gabriel collapsed into his chair, face buried in his hands. I walked over and placed my hand on his shoulder. "Son." "Mom," his voice broke. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "I know. She lied to me. To you, and I defended her. I didn't believe you." I knelt, holding his face. "You're the victim, Gabriel. She's a professional con artist. It's not your fault." He leaned into me and sobbed like a child. I held him, tears streaming down my face too. It was pain, loss, but above all, love for my son. Mrs. Susan and Aunt Vera came over and embraced us. Everyone gathered around, offering comfort. When Gabriel finally calmed down, he took my hand. "Mom, forgive me. I brought her into our home, let her insult you, destroy Dad's things. I failed." I shook my head. "No, You just trusted the wrong person. Now we'll fix everything together. Michael came closer. Mrs. Linda, one thing you should know, she might come back in the morning to cause trouble. I suggest you change the locks tonight, and if possible, have someone stay with you. My husband and I will stay, said Mrs. Susan firmly. She won't step through that door. I nodded. Thank you, Susan. That night we returned home. Gabriel looked around the cold, sterile white living room. Mom, we'll fix this place. I'll bring Dad's chair back, buy back the old clock. I promise. I squeezed his hand. We'll start over. That night, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully, knowing I had taken back control of my life. The next morning, I sat waiting in the living room after changing the locks. Gabriel was beside me, while Susan and her husband were in the kitchen. Michael arrived early with a police officer. At 10:15, the doorbell rang repeatedly. Gabriel picked up the intercom. Who is it? It's me. Open up, Bianca's shrill voice. My stuff's still in there. I live here. You can't kick me out. Michael stepped to the mic. Miss Bianca, I'm the family's attorney. You are under a removal order for marital fraud. Your belongings will be delivered immediately. If you attempt to enter, the police will arrest you. Silence outside. Gabriel carried out 3 suitcases and set them by the door. I opened it just enough to push them out. Bianca stood there, hair a mess. Mascara streaked, clothes wrinkled. Nothing left of the elegant woman she once pretended to be. Gabriel, please, she begged, clutching his sleeve. Let me explain. He pulled away. Don't touch me. You said you loved me? For 4 years you lied, insulted my mother, destroyed my father's memories, and called me stupid. You don't know what love is. She burst into tears. Gabriel said coldly, You have 60 days to return the $95,000. If not, my mother will sue, and this time you'll go to jail. I don't have money. Then sell your designer clothes, jewelry, and perfume. Nobody cares. He shut the door in her face. Her screams echoed for a few minutes, then faded. Gabriel leaned against the door, sighing. Is it over, Mom? Not yet, I said. There's still Daniel. Michael nodded. He has until tomorrow morning to respond to the court order. If not, we'll proceed with the lawsuit. The next day, at the law office, Daniel showed up. He looked wrecked, unkempt beard, sunken eyes. I don't have $95,000, he said shakily. Not even half. Find a way, Michael said coldly. Sell your car, your house, take a loan. My apartment's still under mortgage, and my car's worth maybe $20,000. Not our problem. Pay up. Gabriel leaned forward, glaring. You were my best friend. I trusted you like a brother, and you paid me back with betrayal and mockery. I'll never forgive you. I asked, How much do you actually have? About $30,000. If I sell my car, maybe $50,000. Not enough, I said. Michael took notes. We can set up a payment plan, $50,000 now, $45,000 over 2 years with interest. What if I can't pay? Prison 2 to 6 years, Michael replied bluntly. Daniel signed the papers, his hands trembling. When we left the office, Gabriel took a deep breath. It's over, Mom. I nodded. Now it really is. But there was still one more thing. We started restoring the house. Gabriel took time off work to help me. Mom, I'll fix everything. What I lost, I'll bring back. We painted the walls, replacing the cold white with warm cream, just like before. Then Gabriel searched the city for old furniture. One day he called, voice shaking with emotion. Mom, I found it the green leather chair. He bought it from an antique shop for over $3,000. When he placed it in its old corner, I sat down and burst into tears. It's the same one, son, exactly. Gabriel knelt, resting his hand on the chair. Dad, I'm sorry for not protecting what was yours. I hugged him, and we cried together. The grandfather clock was harder to find. It took weeks until Aunt Vera sent me a link, an old German clock, chiming every hour, priced at $18,890. When Gabriel hung it on the wall, right at 6 p.m., the sound filled the house. I stood, still, closed my eyes, and felt Robert smiling beside me. "Welcome home, my love," I whispered. With the first $50,000 Daniel paid back, we started rebuilding the home. But this time, every detail carried warmth. It was no longer Bianca's modern house, but my true home, filled with family. We hired a new construction crew to rebuild the wall between the kitchen and living room. The cold gray tiles were replaced with warm brown wood floors. The colors, the spirit, the memories slowly returned. It took almost 3 months, but when it was finished, the house was mine again. Gabriel still lived with me, but everything was different now. He cooked with me every Sunday, watched the evening news from his father's leather chair, talked, laughed, truly present in this home. "Mom, I was so blind," he said one night as we drank tea in the kitchen. "I kept pretending to be happy and forgot what really mattered." "And what matters most, son?" I asked. "You, Mom, us. This house and our memories." I held his hand. "Now you understand." A few months later, Gabriel met Fernanda, a 32-year-old English teacher, simple, kind, genuine. She came for dinner, was polite, asked about my late husband, complimented the house, and when she left, she simply said, "Mrs. Linda, it was lovely meeting you." After she left, I told Gabriel, "Now that's a real woman." Bianca tried to come back 3 times, texting, calling, even showing up, but Gabriel never answered. She never repaid a single dollar of what she owed and eventually vanished. Michael filed a lawsuit, but she moved, deleted her social media, and disappeared without a trace. "Let it go," I said. "A snake hiding in the grass isn't worth chasing. Her life is its own punishment." Now I'm 69, waking up every morning in my own house, listening to the grandfather clock chime at dawn. I drink coffee with Gabriel, cook with him every Sunday. Fernanda visits, often, and when I sit in that green leather chair, running my hand along its surface, looking at Robert's photo on the wall, I know I made the right choice. The wedding photos that were once just memories became my salvation, reminding me who truly deserves to stay and who must be cut out so I can breathe again. It has been 2 years since that evening when I exposed Bianca and Daniel in front of the whole family. When the dust finally settled, life went on but differently, calmer, wiser, and more peaceful. Gabriel started seeing a therapist on his own. One morning, as we drank coffee together, he said, "Mom, I need to understand why I let that happen. I need to understand myself." 3 times a week, he went to therapy and came back quiet and thoughtful. Over time, I saw him change. He stopped blaming himself, stopped apologizing for everything, and began to smile. Again, really smile, the way he used to when he was a boy. One night, he told me what Dr. Paula had said. "Mom, you know, manipulators often choose people with compassion because they always want to see the good in others. That's not weakness, it's kindness misplaced." I've never forgotten those words. Kindness misplaced. Fernanda entered our lives gently, without rushing anything. Gabriel met her in a photography class he joined to fill the emptiness Bianca left behind. She was nothing like anyone before. Her naturally curly hair, t-shirt, jeans, a bright laugh, and a way of speaking that was open and honest. The first time she came over for dinner, she brought a homemade carrot cake. "Mrs. Linda, I'm not a baker, but my aunt taught me this recipe. I hope you like it." I took a bite. Soft, fragrant, delicious. "You really made this yourself?" "I did." Gabriel saw me. "I made a mess in the kitchen, but I cleaned everything. I promise." I liked her from that moment because Fernanda never pretended. She didn't try to be sweet, didn't force a smile, and, most importantly, she treated Gabriel as an equal, not as a trophy. Once, while the three of us were watching a movie, she told him, "Don't try to be too much of a gentleman. I have a job. I make money." We split the bill. Gabriel looked surprised. It might have been the first time he'd ever heard that. Fernanda also respected me, but in just the right way. She didn't call me Mom or try to act overly familiar. She called me Mrs. Linda, asked for my opinion but spoke up when needed. "Mrs. Linda, honestly, you seasoned this a bit salty," she said once with a laugh, "but everything else tastes amazing." I burst out laughing because she was right. Life slowly returned to normal. Gabriel and I restored every little corner together. We found an antique wooden cabinet at a flea market, just like the one Bianca had thrown away, for only $250. Gabriel carried it to the car himself, sweating all over. "Worth every drop, Mom," he said. Smiling, we rehung the old photos, Robert holding baby Gabriel, our wedding picture, Gabriel's graduation photo. I brought back the lace curtains Bianca once called old-fashioned. Now they filled the room with a warm, golden light. We even planted a new pear tree beside the old one in the yard, 2 generations, 2 stories intertwined. "Someday this tree will bear fruit for your kids," Gabriel said as he watered it. Exactly 2 years after we signed the agreement, on an October afternoon, Daniel made his final payment and disappeared from our lives. Michael called, "Mrs. Linda, all payments complete, $95,000 in full." Gabriel asked, "Mom, what will you do with the money?" I looked around the house, then at my son. "Half goes into savings, and half to finish the house and take a trip, the 3 of us, you, me, and Fernanda. How about that?" Gabriel smiled. "Perfect." We went to Colorado Springs, where Robert had taken me for our honeymoon. We stayed in a small inn, shared warm meals, and walked through the quiet streets just like we had years ago. Fernanda held my arm as we climbed a hill. "Mrs. Linda, thank you for letting me come. I know this trip means a lot to you. That's exactly why I wanted you here, because you make my son truly happy." She squeezed my hand and smiled. That night, in the cold air, they called me out to the balcony. "Mom, we have something to tell you." Gabriel's hands trembled. My heart raced. "What is it?" Fernanda raised her hand. The simple silver ring caught the light. "We're getting married." I hugged them both, tears streaming down my face. "Congratulations, my dear children," Gabriel said. "We want a small wedding, just family, in the backyard. Nothing extravagant." Fernanda added, "You don't have to worry about a thing. We'll handle it." I cupped their faces. "You have no idea how happy you've made me." The wedding took place. 6 months later, with only 15 guests. Fernanda wore a simple dress she bought at a department store for $200. Gabriel wore his old suit. We cooked the dinner ourselves. Fernanda, Mrs. Susan, Aunt Vera, and me. The priest was the same one who had baptized Gabriel. The ceremony lasted only 30 minutes, but it was heartfelt and moving. When he said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," I looked up at the sky and felt Robert smiling. "We did it, my love. Our son found the right person." After the wedding, they moved into a small apartment 10 minutes away from me, 2 bedrooms, a balcony full of plants, $2,000 in rent each month. "Mom, I'll visit every week. You come for lunch anytime," Gabriel promised, and he kept his word. Every Sunday, either I went to their place or they came to mine. We cooked, watched movies, talked. Fernanda taught me how to use my phone, make video calls, and find recipes. "Mrs. Linda, you've got to stay modern, but keep your style," she laughed. I laughed with her, because she was right. We never heard from Bianca again. Mrs. Susan once said she'd heard Bianca had moved to Florida and was already trying to scam another family. I simply said, "That's fine. Life always collects its debts sooner or later." And I was right. Sometime later, I got a call from a lawyer in Washington, D.C. "Mrs. Linda, do you know a Miss Bianca Costa?" I froze. "Yes. Why?" "She's just been arrested for fraud. She stole $400,000 from a businessman. There's solid evidence. She's been sentenced to 4 years in prison." I sat there in silence. 4 years. That night, I told Gabriel. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I feel sorry not for her, but for the person she could have become if she had chosen honesty." I looked at him and saw real maturity in his eyes. I learned that rebuilding your life is never quick or easy. It's brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice, not giving up. I learned that true family isn't made of those who use you, but those who stay when everything falls apart, helping you rebuild from the ground up. And I learned that justice always exists. It might come late, in an unexpected form, but it always comes. My silver hair is no longer hidden. My wrinkles I wear with pride, and my hands, though weaker, are still strong enough to hold on to what's mine. I sit in the green leather chair, Robert's chair, the one Bianca threw away and Gabriel found again. Beside me is a small wooden table with a steaming cup of coffee. On the wall, the grandfather clock has just chimed 4 p.m. From the kitchen, I hear Gabriel and Fernanda laughing, the clatter of pots and pans, the sounds of life continuing. I look around this house, my house, and think about everything I've lived through. Some people might hear this story and think, "Poor woman, betrayed, robbed, humiliated." But I don't feel pity for myself. I feel strong, because I could have stayed silent, signed that power of attorney, handed over everything, and vanished into the background of my own life. I could have swallowed the humiliation, played the part Bianca wanted, the foolish old woman intruding on a young couple's life, but I didn't. And that's the first lesson I want to leave behind. Silence is not peace. Silence is fear disguised. When you stay silent in the face of injustice, you're not being generous, you're helping your destroyer. And I refuse to be an accomplice. People ask me, "You lost so much, went through so much pain, was it worth it?" My answer, yes. Because I regained something. Money can't buy my dignity. I learned that a mother's love doesn't mean accepting everything. Loving your child isn't about endless sacrifice. Sometimes love means saying no, setting boundaries, teaching respect even when it hurts both of you. Gabriel had to learn that lesson the hard way, but he learned it. Today, my son is a different man, wiser, more grateful, more present. He no longer sees me as the mother who fixes everything, but as Linda, a woman, a widow, a survivor, and that is priceless. I also learned that manipulators don't choose victims at random. Bianca chose me because I was a widow living alone, with one son and stable assets. She saw an opportunity and struck with surgical precision. That's why I always warn people. Be cautious of anyone who comes into your life too fast, makes too many promises, calls you mom before they know you, or tries to access your money, home, or trust too soon. True closeness takes time. Rushing is always a red flag. In my drawer, I still keep the USB drive with the wedding photos, recordings, and all the evidence. Sometimes I think of throwing it away, but I don't, because it reminds me how strong I was when I stood up for myself. You are always stronger than you think, even when the world tries to convince you that you're too old, too weak, or too forgetful. You are not weak. You are exactly who you need to be to survive. People often ask me, "Have you forgiven Bianca?" Honestly, I don't know. Forgiveness isn't an obligation, nor a gift you give to make others feel better. I don't live with hatred. I don't let anger eat away at me. But forgiveness? That only matters when someone is truly remorseful. From what I know, she's still lying, still hurting others. So no, I haven't forgiven her, but I also don't give her space in my mind. She doesn't deserve my hatred or my forgiveness, only my indifference. As for Daniel, he paid back every cent. It doesn't erase his guilt, but it proves one thing: every action has consequences. Justice isn't always prison. Sometimes justice means 2 years of hard work to repay what you stole, living with shame, losing your friends, your reputation, your peace. Daniel lost all of that, and Gabriel, my son, lost his blind trust, but gained wisdom. Fernanda walked into the room with a smile. "Mrs. Linda, dinner's almost ready. Do you need help getting up?" I laughed. "No, sweetheart, I can manage." She laughed too. "I know, just wanted to offer." I stood up, my knees a little stiff but steady, and walked toward the kitchen. Gabriel had already set the table, napkins folded neatly, silverware gleaming. "Mom, I made your favorite chicken stew with beans." I sat down, and the three of us joined hands to pray a tradition Robert started. "Thank you, Lord, for this meal, for our family, for life itself. Amen." We ate dinner, talking and laughing. Fernanda shared stories about a mischievous student. Gabriel talked about a new project at work. I listened, smiled, and felt happiness fill the room. That's real wealth, not money, not big houses or fancy cars, but this moment, this laughter, this table. After dinner, they hugged me tightly before leaving, promising to return Sunday. I stayed behind, but I didn't feel alone. I turned on the radio. An old song Robert used to love began to play. I danced slowly around the living room, brushing my hand over the table, the leather chair, the soft curtains. Everything here was mine, everything I had fought for and reclaimed. When the grandfather clock chimed 6 p.m., I stopped and looked at Robert's photo on the wall. My love, I did it. I protected our home, our son, and myself. Maybe it was just my imagination, but I swear his smile in that picture looked a little brighter. I walked to the window, opened it, and let the night air in. And if you're listening to this story, if you're being manipulated, disrespected, or mistreated in your own home, remember this: you have the right to fight back. No matter your age, no matter who they are, no one has the right to take your peace, your dignity, or your memories. Stand up for yourself, set boundaries, Seek help, gather proof, and when the moment comes, show your strength. Because respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you make others understand they owe you. And one last thing, the most important, you're not alone. There are so many like you out there. Mothers deceived by daughters-in-law, sons betrayed by wives, families torn apart by opportunists. But there are also many who survived, who fought back, who won, and you can be one of them. I closed the window, turned off the living room light, and went into my bedroom, the master bedroom I had reclaimed after years of being pushed aside. I lay down, pulled over the wool blanket Robert's mother had knitted, closed my eyes, and slept peacefully with the heart of someone who had done the right thing. Those wedding photos, once just sweet memories, became the doorway to truth, and truth, no matter how painful, is always the way to freedom. And if one day the person you trust most ends up hurting you, will you stay silent or will you stand up for yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because I believe that from every story we can all learn how to love, to understand, and to live better. And if you want to keep hearing stories of trust, betrayal, and the strength it takes to heal, stay with this channel. Together, we'll keep going through empathy, through lessons, and through hearts that have learned how to love the right way.